Sean Parnell might have been born in Pittsburgh, but he was forged into the man he is today in the shadow of the Hindu Kush Mountains as a member of the 10th Mountain Division. He chronicled the exploits of his 485 days in combat in the best-selling book, Outlaw Platoon, sharing the incredible story of one of the most decorated platoons since the 9/11 attacks. Eric Steele was also born in the crucible of the war. A composite of the men Sean Parnell served with, Steele exploded onto the thriller scene in Man of War. Steele is an Alpha, a clandestine operator in an ultra-secret intelligence unit known simply as the Program, dealing with the most dangerous threats in the most lethal ways. Steele returned in Parnell's second fictional offering, All Out War, cementing his status as a force in the genre. Lee Child called the series fast, hard, and effortlessly authentic, and added, lead character Eric Steele and author Sean Parnell are the real deal. Now, the country faces an insidious and unseen enemy, one determined to wipe out the program. But one true patriot stands in the way.
I'm Sean Parnell, and you should be watching the Crew Reviews.
Boys, let's raise a glass and welcome Sean Parnell to the show.
Hey, how are you, palsy?
Brother.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, there you go. That better be coffee.
We'll be back.
So, Sean, glad to have you back, man. Everything been going all right?
Everything's crazy. It's going all right. It's going good, but it's crazy too. So
Imagine that.
Be back though.
Yeah.
You guys have been doing this for a year now. How's it
Yeah,
going?
if you can believe it.
It's hard to believe. Well, let's get right into the craziness. One True Patriot takes Eric Steele kind of to the edge of the abyss. He experienced some personal loss in the all-out war, and without giving too much away, his foundations and really any sense of security he's had have been shaken in this book.
I love that.
Tell us a little bit about the story and what led you down that particular narrative path.
You know, the first book in Man of War, Eric Steele was a sort of a highly idealistic young singleton operator, you know, who believes that he can conquer the world, you know, with the American flag on his shoulder, the might and power of the U.S. military at his back, he can do anything. And he accomplished the mission, but it's at great personal cost, right? I mean, he loses his, you know, he watches his friend turn into something that he didn't expect was possible. So his idealism in the cause is shaken a little bit. In the second book, as you touched on briefly, Eric Steele loses somebody that he's really close to, and that shakes him even more. And he goes into the book. The end of that book ends with him doing something that is like not very Eric Steele like, you know. And he's sort of a darker version of himself. Well, in this book, he loses a lot. And, you know, I wanted to put him up against an enemy in One True Patriot that he hadn't really faced before. And I was really trying to be unique with regards to how I developed, you know, his antagonist. The villain in this story is just a ruthless female assassin. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. Doesn't even know who she is very early on. And he loses, you know, his friends, and they just start dying. And Eric Steele is sort of starts off the book trying to figure out, you know, trying to crack that code and figure out who's actually killing his team members. And the Alpha program is just, you know, under full scale attack. And, you know, I just wanted him to put him. I wanted to put him up against an enemy that he hadn't really faced before, you know.
And speaking of the Alpha program, Eric Steele and the Alpha program, they're both fiction, but the types of threats they face are absolutely real. Do you think there's a program similar to the one you created for the series? And if so, what would be key differences between reality and fiction?
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, the program was developed, you know, and brainstormed in Afghanistan, where we know where the bad guys were. You know, and we was like, well, we could just like drive over to that house right now. We can get it. Can we do it? But we'd have to wait for weeks for approval. And we're just thought like maybe there's a unit out there that could do this without any rules of engagement impediment. And you know, I started, well, what if there was? And so, you know, I feel like, you know, the program is structured in the book where there's 9 alphas, alpha program operators that are each responsible for a different geographic area of the globe. That's very similar to, U.S. Special Forces team. They they each cover down on a different geographic area. They speak the language. They can embed with indigenous people. Well, the alpha program sort of structured in the same way. And Eric Steele is sort of the youngest and most talented alpha operator. As you read the stories, you find out that his ties to the Alpha program are a lot deeper than what he initially believes. But the story sort of follows him, and I like to believe that the president of the United States has people that work directly for him that can respond to threats. When war does not work and diplomacy is not an option, the president has to have a third option, and it can't just be the clandestine, it can't just be a clandestine service operations officer at the CIA. It just can't. It has to be more than that, and they certainly, the president certainly does. There are such a thing as like white operations special forces team and black operations special forces teams. We worked with a colonel in Afghanistan, just an 06, like an old man, basically. I mean, for real. I mean, he seemed old to me as like a 24-year-old kid, right? And this guy,
he was 40.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's probably true. Well, he just like shows up on the base one day by himself. I'm like, who is this guy? It turns out he was a Green Beret. He was in the U.S. Army Special Forces, but he was a singleton operator. He was a black operations and on the black side singleton operator for the Green Berets. So they exist. And I've experienced them on the battlefield, and I've worked with them on the battlefield. So I got to believe that they exist in real life too.
Yeah,
Well, of course they exist in real life, but Your question was how would it differ from the program in the book to real life? They do exist in real life, and so I try to, obviously it's fiction. You want to have fun, but I try to bring a level of realism to it.
I'll tell you, I'd like to think that some of our politicians or the people that work for them are reading these books and going, you know what, that's a damn good idea. Because I feel like there's a lot of things in thrillers that would solve a lot of problems.
That unit that Brad Thor worked with, that Red Cell unit. I think the whole purpose of that. Is that what it was called? I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
It was under the George W. Bush administration or something like that, right? But I don't know if it still exists. But that was like the whole purpose of that, right? Was just to brainstorm different threats that the United States may face here domestically or globally.
Right. A contingency process.
Yes.
So as a soldier, a young Sean Parnell went into the service and came out quite different out of the service, as you well attested to in Outlaw Platoon. So how have you transformed as a writer from that firsthand account to your first Eric Steele novel to now your latest?
It's challenging. I mean, when I left the military, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I intended to go into the Army and make it a career and go in for 20 years and, try out for the Special Forces, become a Green Beret and, close with and destroy the enemy for, 2-3 decades. But being wounded in Afghanistan, medically retired before my time, I didn't really get that opportunity. And I remember being shaken. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, so I came back to Pittsburgh, was born and raised here, and I just went to grad school because I guess that's what you do when you're trying to reach, guys get out of the military and they say, oh, I'm going to go to law school, or I'm going to go to grad school. So that was just a thing that you did. Yeah. And I came back and I just sort of felt like I didn't really have a purpose. Going to grad school was sort of like being like in Billy Madison in first grade to me. I'm not trying to be negative. I mean, I like a lot.
That is correct.
Yeah. You want some of this milk? I like my classmates, and I just felt like, you come back from war and literally life and death is on the line every day. Grad school just kind of felt like,
why?
You're stressed that your reflection paper is 5 minutes late. Like, Okay.
Really?
I don't got time for that. And I'm not trying to be negative. That was just sort of like, what do you want me to say? It was just hard coming back from war and going right into that environment. I just sort of poured myself into the next mission. And that was what I thought was the next mission. And that was telling the story of my troops, you know,
Yeah,
and,
sure.
you know, I just think that, you know, when you're a leader, that you raise your right hand, you take the oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And then you have the unbelievable privilege of leading America's sons and daughters into battle. I mean, that's a lifelong charge. It's one that I take very seriously. And I felt like a lot of my guys came home from the war and they talked to Americans, and Americans would ask them where they were deployed, and so they'd tell them that they were in Afghanistan, and Americans would be like, wow, thank you for your service, but thank God you're not in Iraq, because Iraq is just so dangerous. And my guys would be like, I just got shot in the head last week. They just felt like they were completely forgotten. And so I just felt, you know, hey, it was my responsibility to try and tell their story. And I didn't know, I'm not like a writer, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I threw myself into it, and, you know, was rejected by my first literary agent, boy, a couple times. And, you know, that was tough for me. But then I was able to reach out to John Bruning through his sister, which is kind of a funny story. Do you know that story?
Yeah, the cats.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if I told you guys this last time or not, but I found her, wrote her an email. She had John reach out to me, and the rest is history. And Outlaw Platoon took off, and nobody was more surprised about that than me.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I wasn't surprised after seeing that book, man. That was awesome.
I you know, I mean, I didn't expect it to do anything. I mean, we kind of had a difficult time even getting it sold.
That's crazy.
Wow.
You know, I don't remember how many the big dog publishing houses there were back then. That was back in, I don't even know. I mean, the Outlaw Platoon came out in 2012.
Right.
I don't know, but there were what 10?
Yeah, there's been a lot of consolidation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like, I don't know what it was, but they all, like, I thought that they all rejected me, and I got a call one day. Have I told you guys this story?
I don't know.
I don't remember it. No.
Yeah. So I just was like, I was crushed. Nobody had picked up the story. I had thought that they had all passed, and I was crushed. So I remember sitting in this like, you know, an above ground Walmart pool, like drinking margaritas at like 11 in the morning. Like,
what's wrong with that?
Oh, you know, like, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if it has to be in a Word document. Like, I'm doing this. And then, no joke, like 2 drinks in, I get a call from my agent who's like, hey, William Morrow wants this book. And I'm like, wait, what? Because this was like 3 months after, maybe 2 months after everybody passed. And I was like, wait, for real? It said, yeah. He said he was on the editor, David Heifel, is on vacation. He thinks that it's probably not available yet, but he wants it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So he snatched up Outlaw Platoon, and the book came out in 2012, and we never looked back. I mean, that book has taken off in a way that I really never thought possible.
Hey, Sean, you know, we're writers, and so we all get those rejections from publishers and from literary agents. Can you share with what some of the editors, like when they pass, they usually give notes to your agent, like, hey, great book, blah blah blah, but you know, our list is full or whatever. Did you get any crazy ones? Like, no, this isn't believable, or who's Sean Parnell, or what's Outlaw Platoon?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple agents say, you know, just straight up, like, this isn't good enough, you know, need more stories. I don't like the structure. I don't like your style. You know, and my agent, when he first rejected me, was like a total pro, you know, who's so nice in his response, and gave me feedback on what I needed to do to take the story to the next level. But there was a learning curve, no doubt. It was dejecting. And then from publishers, I feel like the agent that my agent, who eventually signed me, said, he sort of filtered out the negativity. But I think, Penguin had expressed interest in it, but then they canceled the offer because I guess one of their other editors had an Afghan story that they were publishing, and they didn't want my book to compete with that book. That's
sure.
something, you know what I mean? Like, that's just something that, like, as a young author or aspiring author, you just don't think about that they didn't want any one of their books competing with another one. And so looking back though, I firmly believe in this idea I firmly believe that God has a plan, and even though you might not understand what that plan is in the moment, he has a plan for you later. And it was meant to be that Penguin didn't take me, because working with William Morrow, all sorts of people have negative experiences with their publisher, but David Highfill is amazing. William Morrow is amazing. I've been working with essentially the same core group of people at William Morrow since Outlaw Platoon came out. Now, consider how much turnover is in the public.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've got the same team working with me, and they're just amazing people. They're just amazing people.
Well, it was meant to be for you. I mean, it's obvious, right?
I don't know. I feel like there was a perfect storm of stuff that came together that made Outlaw Platoon successful. I didn't come out of the military. This wasn't like laid at my feet. Like, I had to bust my butt for everything. And it was never really like I had to work really hard to get an agent, and then work hard to get a publisher, and then work hard to write Outlaw Platoon to make sure the story of my soldiers is told the right way. I just a no-name captain when I came out of the military, and so I got an interview with Fox and Friends, which was at the time just amazing. And, at the exact same time that I got that interview, do you remember the story where the U.S. soldiers got in trouble in Afghanistan for burning Qurans?
For sure.
That happened the week my book came out, and I was the guy with the Afghan book. So, you know what I mean? So I was on MSNBC, I was on CNN, I was on Fox News, I was on Laura Ingraham, I was on,
That's a whirlwind. Holy crap.
Yeah. And all of this sort of happened in the first week because everybody wanted the guy with the Afghan book, and so
It's good for sales.
Meant to be.
Yeah, so I think it was like a combination of working hard on telling a good story, because you can sell a lot of books in the first week through good marketing or whatever, but if it's not a good book, it's not going to sell.
Right.
Outlaw Platoon even though we had tons of great media in the first couple of weeks. I mean, they even Tavis Smiley. Do you remember his late night show? He even had me on. I mean, I flew out to LA to do that. It was unbelievable.
He's from my hometown.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It's crazy.
He's from Kokomo.
Yeah, so can you believe that? When was the last time you saw it? I mean, I don't even know if he has a show anymore, but I mean, it was kind of an unbelievable thing. The launch had lots of great media, but at the end of the day, I think Outlaw Platoon has always been a grassroots story. So it came out, hit the New York Times bestseller list, and then I think a year later, it just popped back on the list at around Christmas time with really, I wasn't doing any media for the book at that point, but it just went back on the list just because I think people were reading it and telling people hey, this is a good book. You should read this. And it was just sort of crazy. The whole thing was just crazy.
Sean, let's shift gears a little bit. In our last interview, you talked about the transition from nonfiction to fiction. And you had a remark that I remember it said, sometimes you have to allow yourself to be a beginner.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, how is that maxim applied to your political life? What has surprised you, and what have been some of the hard lessons?
Well, where do you want to start? I mean, I just got on the phone with one of my team members, one of my campaign employees, and I was like, what's amazing to me is how little I know about any of this.
Sure.
And politics is just that people don't realize, people don't understand fundamentally how campaigns are run, yet everyone has a lot of advice for you. And
right.
By the way, I love that. I listen to every bit of advice that I get from people because, the people, that's what this job is all about. You're representative by and for the people. So the job is to listen to them. But I'm just saying, like a lot of people, even professional pundits, don't understand how fundraising works, because I'll get the question like, oh, is the party giving you a lot of money? It's like, well, no, the party doesn't give money to candidates. They might cut you a $5,000 PAC check or something like that, but they don't, by and large, you raise the money. And one of the steepest learning curves for me as a candidate is you've got to pick up the phone and you've got to you got to do fun. You ever do sales cold calls?
Sounds fun.
They're wonderful.
They're so difficult.
Yeah.
And I've got to do it and ask people for money. And that's been a really difficult thing to, stow your pride and just put in the legwork to get the job. You get a lot of no's. In fact, I sort of reframe it in my mind, especially when I first got in the race and I was a political unknown. Like a lot of people that run for political office, they run for local and then they run for state. And then, hey, maybe it's their turn to run for Congress.
Yeah.
I've never liked that. I'm not a politician. I don't look like a politician. I don't say politically things, like,
Sure.
how politicians talk. They all talk like politicians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm
Spent a lifetime around them.
yeah, I am not. I'm an outsider. The president called me out to do this, and I wasn't even there. And I wasn't even at the event. You have some big speech at the Marcellus Shale Coalition here, which is an oil and gas conference here in Western Pennsylvania. Called me out to run. I wasn't even there. So I turned my life upside down and got in the race. And my mom was the one that actually told me that he called me out. The whole thing was just crazy. So to say, because you think about it, like I went into this not knowing anything about anything. I've never run for a political office before. So when I say that people, they climb the ladder, well, they learn a lot along the way climbing the ladder. You know
Sure.
what I mean? So they have some semblance of how it works and campaign infrastructure and regulations and how fundraising is supposed to happen. I had none of that. And so sort of just thrown into the deep end of the pool and hey, figure it out. No, by the way, make sure your books are delivered on time. I know. And so, we've been doing everything that we can to just get out there, meet the people, and raise money. And we're doing that. And I think probably this race that I'm in now is probably the most important race in the whole country. I mean, it's sort of the national bellwether of sorts.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is really
Yeah, and this is a district that, I'm running in a district that President Trump won in 2016, and my Republican Senator Pat Toomey also won it by a larger margin. And so all eyes are on this district, and I'm sort of right in the middle of this hurricane, and it all culminated really with me speaking in a primetime slot at the Republican National Convention like a week ago, which was, I mean, it was just insane. Yeah, I mean, for real. This is just all so crazy.
Sean Parnell not doing anything half-assed. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah, man. And so for this, I mean, you wouldn't believe. I mean, that Republican National Convention speech. I got a call from the president's staff, or my campaign got a call from the president's staff and said, "Would Sean like to talk at the convention? The president would like to have him talk." And I was like, "Yep. Let's do it." Of course. I mean,
you never say no to that.
You don't say no.
You can't.
You know what? There were people out there that were like, "Well," I'm like, "No, I'm doing it. This is an honor. Come on."
Sure,
like,
sure.
Huge deal. So it was an honor. And really, I never looked back, and I'm glad I did it. And I didn't give a typical convention speech. My whole speech was about like, look, we need to come together as a country. We were able to do it on the battlefield, right? The most diverse group of infantrymen you can possibly imagine. We came together on the battlefield, and if we could do it in one of the most hostile regions on the planet, surely we can do it here in this country. And if we can somehow accomplish that, come together as a people, well, this country can do anything. I mean, for God's sake, we went to the moon with less technology than we're using for the Zoom call right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was an unconventional convention speech, but the response I've gotten, even from outlets like CNN and MSNBC has been wholly positive. So it's a whirlwind is an understatement, but it's
Sean. I think people appreciate the authenticity. They want to see. They don't want. I mean, everyone's does that. Politics and politicians. You're getting into politics, but you're not a politician. But sticking with this political life, let's assume you do win in November.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance being Congressman Parnell family and being best-selling author Sean Parnell?
No, I don't. I wish I had answers for you. I don't know what the hell's going on right now. Like, I just
one fire at a time.
More coffee.
I have a certain set of convictions, and I'm running with an R after my name. But again, like, I'm not the worst part about this job is the politics.
Yeah.
The best part about this job is the people. So my focus is always putting them first. But I'm sitting here working on book 4 now, and I'm 30,000 words in, and I'm just like, it's due in November. When you're already working 20-hour days, I mean,
dude, wait a minute, does your editor not know you have an election in November?
Something else. I was just going to say something else happens in November too.
Great timing. Thank you.
But my editor, David's always been amazing he's just the best to work with. And he's just super supportive. And so, I mean, we're, chipping away at the story, trying to run for political office. I will still write these books as a congressman. I just don't know. I mean, if I can, I will, if that makes sense. I mean, this job really is it really is a 20-hour-a-day job. So,
heck yeah. Well, I'm going to raise a glass to that because that's awesome.
Hell yeah. We've raised glasses to a lot less than that. Yeah. Well, now that you're stepping into politics, have there been anybody who's currently elected official that publishes books reached out to you to offer any sort of advice, or have you talked to anybody that kind of in that same mold that you find yourself in now?
There's not. I mean, a lot of elected officials, like Dan Crenshaw, just came out with a great book.
Right.
Marco Rubio, I think had a book come out a couple years ago, but by and large, they're nonfiction memoir type books.
Right.
I'm not sure I don't think there's anybody in Congress that's writing fiction. And that would be pretty damn awesome if I were the first one.
Sean, haven't you seen some of their speeches? I think a lot of their speeches are fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Zing.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true, by the way. And I'm not trying to get political on a non-political show, but Joe Biden came to Western Pennsylvania. This is my stomping ground, and he's like, I'm not gonna ban fracking. I throw it into my phone and Google for 2 seconds, and I find 20 videos talking about how he's gonna ban fracking. I'm like, this is what I hate about politics.
Yeah.
When I'm out there on the stump, you know what I tell people? I guarantee you that we will not agree on everything. But who says we have to?
Right.
Sit around my family, big Italian family at Thanksgiving, and we don't agree on anything, But the job is to show up for you, not to always agree. The job is not to be all things to all people, but to tell you, shoot with you straight, tell you exactly how I feel so that there can be a discourse and we can meet in the middle, come to consensus, and do the work on behalf of the American people. And right now, politicians, I mean, and this is another thing, politicians tend to think races and elections are about them. And I'm working hard for the people because I know that elections are not about me or my opponent. They're about the people. So I'm focused on them and hoping that it will pay off in the long run.
Representative government.
You knew a few officers that were kind of out there for themselves, and you even mentioned those in the previous text. So I think you're finding that same exact scenario now.
You're exactly right. There are lots of people in this world that are only concerned with their bow and never their wake. I feel like I'm somebody that is always concerned with, and that's just part of the job of being a leader, is to always be concerned with the wake. Are you creating more leaders, or are you creating destruction and devastation in your wake?
Yep.
Somewhere a bunch of Navy guys are going, "Hey, this Army guy, he gets it.
He gets it.
Gals and wakes. What the heck?" Well, Sean, if I remember correctly, you read The Hobbit in 3rd grade, and that kind of planted the seed that told you wanted to write fiction one day. So my question, though, is, did young Sean Parnell ever conceive of a foray into politics? Did you tell your mom, like so many of us do when we're little, I'm going to be president because I saw Reagan speak, or I think Michael Dukakis at the gas station, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so that's funny. That's what the vice president said to me. No, I've never had a moment like that as a kid. And like I said, this was really never in the cards for me. Now, I've always been involved in politics. I've always been political. Because when I came out of the military, I just always believed that you don't need a uniform or title or rank to fight for the country that you love. And oh, by the way, we should do everything we can to make sure that we give back to the people of this great country as well. So I dedicated my life to that, in addition to writing books and stuff, but dedicated my life to this country even after I got out of the military. And so, but I never thought this would be my path. And that's particularly, I mean, look, when I say I didn't know what I was going to do when I came out of the military, I did not know what I was going to do. And I sort of wandered through my post-military life and enjoyed, like, whether it was writing books or working for the American Warrior Initiative. I mean, I love that stuff. And then to get thrown into politics where, by the way, listen to this. So I'd be like travel around the country, and everywhere I'd go talking about veterans issues, Democrat or Republican, it would always be like, "Oh, I love what you said. I love what you said." And then now I'm in running for political office, and it's like 50% of the people automatically distrust you. And it's like, wait, what changed? Nothing changed. I just have an R after my name. So it's been, it was never really in the cards for me, but I feel like I don't know if you guys will dig this or not, but I do feel like this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And, my path to here was certainly not wasn't a direct line of sight thing for me, but I do feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Seems like it from my end, dude. It really does.
Yeah, man. I really feel like, I mean, look, this job I was scared to get into it, because we were coming fresh out just 2 years ago. What people did to Brett Kavanaugh was like one of the worst things that I've ever seen.
Right.
And I don't care what anyone says. People were being honest with themselves. They made up lies about that guy in front of his wife, and they tried to destroy him. And that was really. I mean, look. I mean, I was scared to get into this because I didn't want to have to.
You're going to get vilified, Sean.
Yep.
So because I spent a decade, in the Secret Service, so around politics. I was on Joe Biden's detail for 2.5 years. It's politics all the time. Doesn't matter what the issue is. Doesn't matter what the problem is, who the person is. It's all the time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You're so right. You're so right. And I'm really trying to not be like that.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, Sean. So you're writing commercial fiction, and that's a business. You have to sell books, and your next publishing contract, it depends on it. So considering how polarized the country appears to be, do you worry your political ambitions might affect your writing ones?
No, I don't. Because I feel like I'm strong. I'm convicted. I know what I believe. But I'm not doing what I'm doing because I'm a Republican. I don't hem and haw and test the political winds and look at polling before I make decisions. I will stand on principle or what I personally believe, even if that might hurt me in the polls. And so, my whole convention speech, I even said in my speech, like, if you're a Democrat and you're disillusioned with how radical things have become, then stand with us. We want you in our tent. And so, this whole job for me is really about unifying people. And when you look at my infantry platoon, I mean, my goodness, I mean, I said it on the stage at the RNC, but it's the truth. We do all bleed red. And this country has got to come together. it doesn't matter what God you worship or what color your skin is or how much money you make or where you come from. We're all Americans at heart. We all bleed red. And the leader's first and foremost responsibility is to bring people together, right? In every way that he can. And that's really what I'm trying to do here in Western Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to do nationally as well. And so, no, I don't think that, my political platform, I mean, it might turn off the most, ardent, far leftists, but that's okay. They're probably not going to be buying my book.
They probably were not reading your book anyway. So
doesn't mean I don't want them to. Hey, buy my book. I want you to read it. I think you'll like it, but still.
Here it is, folks.
Buy my book and write me and tell.
Wait, how do I do this? There it is, right there. So
buy my book and write me and tell me how much you hate it, but just buy it.
That's another thing that I got to tell you guys, like, that, again, when I say the politics of all this is just miserable, I mean, I get criticized by my opponent and his allies in the media for like, oh, all he wants to do is sell books. It's like, well, I do. This is like my job. This is how I put food on the table for my family. You want a political outsider until you have one. Like, I have a job. I'm not a career politician. I've made my paychecks in ways other than being, getting a paycheck from the federal government,
Right.
And so, like, oh, he's only running to, that's like one of the things. He's only running because he wants to sell books. I'm like, well, I take a pay cut if I win. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this for the country and for the people, not for my own personal gain.
Yeah. There's a big cost that goes in that sort of winning scenario.
Yeah.
And so every writer like yourself, you find a measure of their philosophy and their worldview in their own writing. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. So revising is a huge part of publishing your original manuscript. So do you find yourself having to, and that kind of goes back to that question, do you find yourself kind of censoring yourself a little bit, saying, well, if I say this or I cut this, am I going to disillusion 50% of my audience? And
that is such a great question. And the answer is no. And because I find myself even doing that with messaging on the campaign trail, and I'm like, no, you got to just be you,
Okay, yeah.
Because someone said it, like authenticity, right? Who said?
Sure.
Who you're talking about? I think authenticity.
This guy.
Yes, on the authenticity on the page, authenticity as a person, authenticity in the political world is the coin of the realm.
So, Sean, you danced the Hollywood dance a bit, and I know Outlaw Platoon was under option for a long time before you got it back. But knowing the industry latches on to trends and is follow the leader, I was wondering, has the success of the movie The Outpost had people sniffing around Outlaw Platoon again?
I have had people reach out to me and say, looking at the whole package too, like saying, okay, we would like to option Outlaw Platoon first, but also have secondary options out there for developing, the Eric Steele franchise. But it's really just sort of stopped there. And I mean, I don't mean stopped, but that's just where we are in terms of discussing. And, but for me, like, you described it perfectly, and it's really what it is. It's a dance, right? Like, I've sort of given up thinking about it, if that makes sense. Like, I sort of am at a place now where, like, if it happens, it happens, because in many ways, like, there's a lot of different reasons why producers in Hollywood do a lot of different things. And I'm not a mind reader. I don't care what they think anymore. If they want it, great. As long as they have a bold, creative vision for it and they want to do it and do it right, we'll talk. But until then, I'm not going to really try to chase people down or try to pitch it to people. I'm sort of tired of that, But we are in a good spot with all of the books right now. And so say a prayer for me and keep your fingers crossed, because hopefully we'll get something done soon.
We'll do.
Well, I especially if they want to do Outlaw Platoon, they got to do it right, man. Because I mean, that's the whole purpose of your book.
Absolutely. And they're real people. And when I talk to some of the other producers that have had Outlaw Platoon, and a couple have had it, and they're really good people, by the way, I say to them, like, these are real people. you know, like real people with real legacies, some of whom are doing great, some of whom probably not so much.
Yeah.
And I don't want an alteration of a character to be the reason why, you know, one of my soldiers goes into a tailspin, you know.
Right.
I don't want that. And so I don't care how much money they offer me. If they're going to change the creative vision or change the legacy of my troops, I'm not selling to anybody. And I'm fully comfortable saying that.
Yeah. Amen.
Awesome. By the way, that's not to say that I don't understand. Like, I'm not like being draconian. Oh, I won't let any chance. I get
Right.
to be made.
Yeah.
We're talking legacies of people here, you know, and that needs to just be honored.
Yeah.
Well, I'll drink to that, but I'll also drink to the fact that you've once again survived the main portion of the show.
Yeah. Well, here it comes.
Sean Parnell survives another onslaught. But now it's time for the lightning round, and you're well acquainted with it.
Here we go.
We're still, by the way, hoping to call this the Bullet Round and be sponsored by Bullet Bourbon. We put that out there every time.
Branding. That's good branding.
There you go.
All right, Sean. So we established last show that you and I are named after the same person. So our namesake, Sean Connery, just celebrated his 90th birthday. If you could hang out with him for a day, where would it be and what would you be doing?
Oh my God, this is a lightning round? Oh my gosh.
Wait, is this Sean Connery at 90 years old or like 35?
No, whatever. That's a good point.
So here's what I would where Sean Connery at 90.
Whatever age.
Sure, it doesn't
All
matter.
right, well, I could hang out with Sean Connery in his prime. Let's say that it would be, you know, I don't know, in a Goodyear blimp, hanging out, drinking beer with lots of cool people. That would be pretty cool. Like
Pretty much anywhere where Sean Connery is going to be cool. I think we can
He brings it to him.
Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, you know, where he throws the Nazi out the window.
Oh, yeah, in the blimp. Oh, I see. Tickets, please. Tickets.
Yeah, that's just the best. Such a great scene.
I'm going to say Monte Carlo at the baccarat table because I don't have a clue how baccarat's played, but maybe I'll just hang.
You
with
just
him
hand your
and
money
drink.
to the dealer. That's how the game works.
Smoked. I don't know the first thing about gambling, so I was
It's
just
like
lose all
flipping
my
a
money.
coin, baccarat is.
Same.
Yeah,
Okay, second question. Good news. Man of War is going to be made into a film, but there's a
Hey,
catch.
let's drink. Have a drink for
It will be filmed as a musical with Hugh Jackman portraying Eric Steele. Now we know you dig Broadway, and we know you're not against musicals. But do you sign off on that?
absolutely, I do. Hugh Jackman is the man.
Who doesn't want to be him?
Where he's singing and dancing? That guy's legit. That guy.
Oh yeah,
can,
no.
that guy can play Wolverine on the screen, and then what the hell was the music man?
The one-man
Greatest
show he was
Showman.
doing.
The Greatest
Oh,
Showman.
the Greatest Showman, yeah.
The Greatest Showman. Man, he was awesome in that.
Yeah, he's pretty talented guy.
He did Les Miserables too, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he
did.
did. He did.
Shaved his head and everything.
Sign off. If he pops up as a little Zoom window on here, sign off on that right now.
We'll make that happen.
I'll start texting after my
Hang on.
lightning rounds. Okay. So my third question, we're down to 3 lightning round questions. So this is my final question. Notre Dame's Chase Claypool was drafted by your Steelers, and he's going to be a beast. He's a wide receiver. And I'm predicting that he will be Offensive Rookie of the Year right off the gate, even though he's a second-round pick. So if I'm correct, can I be either A, a character in the next Eric Steele book, or B, hired as the speechwriting team once you're in Congress?
Don't let him do the speeches.
Well, I have to tell you, like, you're going to be the one that have to tell me because I am so angry at what the NFL football has become right now. Look, I am not this kind of a person, right? Like, I am just not, but I cannot. They have made me so angry at how political everything has become. I just don't know if I can even watch it anymore. By the way, it pains me to say that as somebody who plays fantasy football religiously with my friends, and like I love NFL football, but but yes, if that happens, you will have that discussion.
Awesome.
Right.
We now have it on tape. Awesome.
No,
Oh, I didn't
Notre
record
Dame.
that. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, wait, what do I get if he's not?
Yeah.
You name it. Name it.
We'll send you one of these.
I'll hand out flyers or whatever at any
That's good.
political events.
That's a deal. That's a deal.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, John, I'm up. If you could uninvent one thing, what would it be?
Okay. Antifa.
There you
There
go.
you go. See?
Perfect example.
We're all on board.
There
I
you
will
go.
drink to that.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right.
And all the people that are going to watch this, I'm just joking. I'm not, for God's sakes. This
No
will be
one watches this show. Don't worry about it.
You're okay. Don't worry about it.
This will be weaponized in an ad. Oh, Sean Parnell wants to make Antifa disappear.
Yeah. Eliminate them.
No, I do.
Exactly. That's what it will be. Eliminate Sean Parnell. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's your chance to redeem yourself. The term hero gets thrown around a lot. But what thing or things actually define someone as a hero?
Someone that puts their ass on the line for someone else and expects nothing in return. I just talked to my kids about this yesterday. When you see a little kid getting bullied by someone bigger, a kid that steps in to defend the little one is a hero.
Yeah.
Stepping up when it's not popular, when a lot's on the line, to do the right thing, even when nobody's looking, especially when nobody's looking. Put your ass on the line for somebody else is an act of selflessness that makes you a hero.
Amen.
Awesome.
Put that in your political ad. There it is.
That will be weaponized against me too.
Sean Parnell wants people to fight.
Sean Parnell.
Yeah, exactly.
Beat up bullies.
Sean
You're so
Parnell
violent.
is hosting little kid fights.
Wait, that's not no.
Think of the YouTube
That was
numbers.
supposed to help you. All right. So, speaking of fighting, it goes without saying that you are a fighter. But which person from history, if any, would you not want to go toe-to-toe with? Living or dead?
Wow. This is a great question, and I do appreciate the monitor. I do consider myself a fighter. I do. I am a default aggressive type guy. But that doesn't. By the way, that doesn't mean I'm extreme in my political views. I just
Right. Fight for what you believe.
Yeah. So
You're not meek.
Yeah, I'm not. So you know who I would not want to go toe to toe with is Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same
Teddy.
thing.
I feel like he would be really a handful.
He would fight dirty. He'd be a dirty fighter.
Whatever it took.
Whatever it takes, yeah.
I mean, he'd shoot me with an elephant gun or something. I mean,
Oh, that would
Or
hurt.
beat you with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
yeah, or beat me to death with it or something. Yeah.
That's exactly who I was thinking.
I was not.
Yeah.
Well, who else could be that? I mean, Teddy Roosevelt is really like, man.
No.
I mean,
See, because
Carry a
most of the
big stick,
people,
right?
most of the people that are formidable, I want a piece of. Like Attila the Hun, I'm down.
Oh, that,
Right.
No.
Alexander the Great. No. All right. Me time. All right.
Do it.
When was the last time you hoisted your terrible towel?
well, last season
Yeah. Was it?
for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this. I'm a huge Steelers fan. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I don't know that I'm going to do it this year, though. I just don't know. The league is out of control for me.
No.
I love the Steelers. I bleed black and yellow, but I just don't fucking do it anymore.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. What is the first thing, and sleep's not on the answer, what is the first thing that you do after you turn in that manuscript?
Oh my God, have a drink for sure. Maybe
Oh, have a drink?
hey, I don't care
Yeah.
what time of day it is. I mean, that's a, and I'll tell you what, especially this fourth one, because I'm going to do a double after this fourth one.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice one.
Call us
All
up.
right.
We'll help out.
I will.
Okay, so here's the last one. Do you think political term limits would solve some of the issues the general public believes, or is it more complicated than that?
It's more complicated than that. Even
Okay.
though I'm not, I'll tell you my thought process on this. I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be down there forever. My goal is to go down to Washington, hit the reset button on everything, shrink the size of government, because I believe there's a direct correlation with a small federal government and more freedom in your life, right?
Sure.
Then when I'm done with all that, I'm going to get a farm in Western PA, live a life of solitude, probably never talk to anybody again. So I'm not going to be
Except the crew reviews.
Except the crew reviews.
You got to come on.
That's my goal. But here's the thing with term limits. A couple of things to consider. So term limits, first of all, I'm in support of term limits just because I'm not going to be down there forever. But the question is how long.
Right.
And so say, for example, you say a congressman, you're serving 2-year terms, right? Say you say I'm only going to do 3 terms. That's 6 years. You'll never become a chairman in 6 years' time. Yeah. And party leadership will never allow you to be a chairman in just 6 years because you don't know how Washington works. Now, right. If you term limit everybody out after just maybe 2 or 3 terms, then what you've done is permanently empower, the bureaucrats in Washington, yep. Right?
Okay, sure.
The swamp, the people that are always there. And what actually happens is you take power away from the people because they don't have anybody that really understands how Washington works. And so guess who has all the power?
The special interests, right?
The special interest.
That's an interesting take on it.
I can see where the special interests would end up running the country
that way.
Yeah, and so what you've done is you take the people's voice and you've marginalized them in favor of special interests. And third, I would say, aren't the people term limits? Shouldn't the people determine when a term is up?
Sure.
That's what your vote's for, right? I guess.
Yeah. Yes. And so if you have a representative that you absolutely love and you think is doing amazing things for your region and you continually vote that person in, wouldn't it be unfair to just say, oh, sorry, no, you don't get to have that guy anymore. In fact, you got this new guy here that you might not like as much. New guy.
Second best, right?
Yeah.
Second best.
Might like as much. So,
yep.
I don't know. But
what about 50 years in office?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say all that. So take what we just talked about and put it right here. All that is, I think, valid. But also when you think about the founders never intended a permanent political class.
Right.
The founders never intended for someone to be in Washington for 50 damn years. And
right.
So,
crazy.
Is the answer like a term limit of 3 terms in Congress or 2 terms in the Senate? No, because that's not enough time to actually get anything done.
Or 20 years? I mean, where's the answer?
I don't know. That's the $1 million question. Where's the answer? So am I in favor of term limits? Yes, I am. The question is how many terms? And because I really do think there's something to, the people deserve strong voices in Washington. And those strong voices I see are really a check against those special interests and bureaucrats that sort of stay there all the time.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Damn good answer. And it's got me thinking about things I haven't thought about. So kudos to you. Damn it, I thought I had something figured out. Now it's not. No. Thank you, Sean Parnell.
Well, I mean, you know what? You know what's funny? The whole term limit thing is 80% of people want term limits. So that tells you that the people in this country don't believe in a permanent political class, right? But yet you've got,
and yet they keep empowering them to be so. Yeah.
But they keep voting them in. So
but then if you're looking at somebody like Pelosi, I mean, people in San Francisco, I mean, she wins all the time out there,
Sure.
And so people must like the job that she's doing, and so if that's the case, then why should we determine otherwise?
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a tougher question.
Well, damn it. Yeah. Sean gave us a lot to think about.
I know. I don't like that.
Write it on your calendar. This is a rare day.
Well, a rare day.
We know how busy you are.
Yeah.
And we know how you're balancing promoting this, running for Congress. By the way, everybody, vote November 4th.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to tell you to vote for, but maybe our guest. But we really appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate you being so generous with your time and so honest. So cheers to you, brother. My friend.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again, pal.
I want to thank Sean Parnell for coming on the show tonight and talking about his book, One True Patriot, as well as his run for Congress. Join us every Monday on the Crew Reviews, where we have the most interesting guests talking about their phenomenal books, and occasionally we have a drink. Cheers to you guys. We'll see you next week.
Occasionally.
Cheers.
This is the outro for Sean Parnell.
Haven't even thought about it. But let's go.
And, well, at least you're consistent.
Well, his name is Sean.
Sean.
Sean. Go. All right, we're going to edit that one.
That's going in, baby.
Sorry, I had to get that out.
Had to get that out of the system.
Cheers.
Cheers, I'm going to drink to that.
Come on.
All right.
Here we go. And whatever. Take 2, Sean Parnell. And Sean Cameron has not practiced. Go.
I want to thank Sean Parnell for joining us tonight. His book, One True Patriot, is out on books. Let's start over.
It's out on books. Yeah, it's definitely out on books.
Is that the website?
I want to thank Sean Parnell for joining us tonight. His latest Eric Steele book, One True Patriot, is on bookshelves now. And if you're in the Pennsylvania district where he is running his war,
Congress.
Running
Go
is
on.
good.
Go on.
Yeah.
Just take 3.
Take 3. Yeah.
his book, One True Patriot, is on bookshelves now. And he is running for Congress in Pennsylvania.
Hitting the wall. Hitting the wall. We brought
I like what Mike
Gotcha.
said
Gotcha.
last time. He goes, ran out of quarters. I don't know.
And whatever. Yeah.
Incredibly interesting guests. They're not all running for Congress, but they are interesting. We'll see.
You were walking the thinnest line. It was so razor. I thought he was going to pull it out.
I did too. I thought I was going to pull it out too.
Gust of wind blew him off the edge. Damn it.
Go. Yeah, you gonna hold it? Is that
Yes,
gonna
I am.
help?
That's going to make all the difference.
Look his binky. And key.